Hello, and welcome to the podcast that discusses all things gaming. Coming to you from the home of Indie PopCon, Gen Con, and the gaming capital of the world, we are the Established Facts.
The line.
You ready?
Yes.
Sure. What's up?
Sorry, Google was.
Oh my
I'm sorry.
goodness.
How did Google
Google's
get
ready
involved?
now.
Google's ready. Good. I'm glad Google's ready. I hope everybody else is ready. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Established Facts. I think I have my act together at this point.
You sure? This is like take 4 for us. So I'm sorry.
It is. So no, it's okay. I got all of the. Yep, still not there. Great.
Have you done your vocal warm-ups, Don?
You know, a little bit. Some of the muscular jaw, you know, the tip of the tongue, that thing.
For those curious, that means he had a cheeseburger.
Ooh, I had a burger yesterday.
What did I have for lunch? Chinese food.
Oh, okay. I had
Buffet.
problem.
Chinese food.
Yeah, you had a cheeseburger.
Yeah, bro. Dumplings. Can never get, dumplings are always... Anyhow, so... on our episode today, we are going to be discussing some different. Well, we want to introduce people around the table before we introduce the actual episode. Okay.
No. Trying to confuse people.
You sure?
You want to confuse them. Shake it up. No, actually, don't shake it up. Keep consistency. Keep it
All right.
consistent.
Well, let's go ahead and introduce everybody at the table, and then we'll get into our finer points of discussion. So, starting to my right.
Je suis et je m'appelle Lance.
Me llamo Dr. Deb.
This is Josh.
Corim Lee Avital.
Yep, I'm Jason.
And this is your host, Big Don. Yeah. Thank you for joining us on our international linguistics episode of the Established Facts.
Please do not expect this in another foreign language. I'm not paying for that.
Donkey.
Yeah, there you go.
I can introduce myself in Japanese too.
You really think so?
Well, I could.
Ohayou gozaimasu.
She's not turning Japanese.
Oh, sorry.
She's speaking Japanese. Anyhow, goodness gracious. Well, welcome to episode 220 of The Established Facts. That's really exciting. We're 2 episodes away from 222, which I just think is a cool number, and 250, which is 30 more numbers cooler
than that.
than
Yeah.
220.
You going to stick with that one?
Yeah, that's where I'm going.
Good, 'cause I wasn't gonna cut it.
No, it's
All right.
live and
30
in
He
person.
can math on the spot.
On the spot.
It's 28 more than 222.
Is it?
Yeah.
28
Little bit.
plus 222 is... But we're on 220, which is 30 more.
It's true.
Yeah, then what
250.
you are right now.
So then...
Yeah.
Somebody out there who
But if
hates
you
math
carry the
does not like
5...
you.
So anyway, on this episode...
If you're still
of
with us.
The
Let me write out the quadratic equation for you.
Nope.
A to the
I haven't
second
been in
plus
school
B
in
to
a
the
long
second
time.
equals C
I
to
don't
the
need.
second. Anyhow.
Carry the square root of -1.
Oh, that's right.
Shh, don't.
That's right.
You're causing me pain.
And then divide it by 0.
I have a minor in math. This is agonizing.
We perform this podcast on the curve. That's
And that's just because I'm fat. Okay, anyhow, so on this episode of The Established Facts, we
having too
thought
much
it would.
fun.
That's right, we are. It's been a long time since we got a chance to hang out on the mics. So I know we did a couple of one-shot episodes, which was so much fun, and I think that just as exciting as being able to sit at the table with friends and play a game on the mics was the fact that we also got subscribed to by Paizo themselves.
yeah.
Which was nuts.
Y'all didn't tell
So-
me that.
Great.
Okay.
It just
That's cool.
happened.
That's
yeah.
part of the reason I was showing the
Surprise.
video. Because
What video?
So
This is
it'll
an-
be up on the YouTube channel either before or after this episode. I haven't decided yet. Probably around the same
At
time.
some point.
If you're listening, it should already be
but
there.
so Aaron Shanks, I
check.
think it's Shanks, and please forgive me if that is not your last name, but the PR rep for Paizo is the guy that sends out the emails like to media
like
and whatnot.
PaizoCon and all kinds of cool stuff like that.
So when we did our actual play with Trouble in Little Absalom, Big Trouble, Little Trouble in Big Absalom. Highly recommend that, by the way. It was a
really
free
fun.
RPG day, fun.
you get to
adventure.
play a kobold.
Like kobolds.
Yeah.
who is raiding the basement. I don't want to tell you.
It's great.
It's so
Go check out 218 and 219.
Spoiler alert, but it's
But
really
anyways,
fun.
I posted the second episode, and I was like, I should probably tag Paizo in this. I don't know if they're paying any attention whatsoever. Well, Aaron Shanks specifically liked the post on the podcast, and then within minutes I received a notification, Paizo has subscribed to your YouTube channel. I'm like, I should probably update our podcast on the YouTube channel. So Deb was like, well, we should do some more video content.
Yep.
So there's a little 5-10 minute video coming up.
That's right.
Maybe a new intro. Yeah, followed by Paizo. Like, that's all it says. Is followed by Paizo.
Do you need music for that intro?
Maybe.
Yes.
We'll talk later.
Make sure Mikey Mason
know a
doesn't
guy?
upset.
I do. I might. You might know. You probably know a couple guys.
That's it.
I do. I mean,
I might be a guy.
You might be one of the guys, but
There's
That
no
could be-
might about it.
you are.
I'm the guy.
You are the
I'm a
guy.
guy.
Don's a
I'm the
singer,
are the
guitar
guy.
player. I
That's
play
it.
music and sing. You write music. Check out what's
I
your
sing
page again?
music and
Synthis.
Synthis. Check them out on YouTube for sure. You on other platforms?
Bandcamp.
Bandcamp. There you go.
Go to those two places.
I love
Thank
how
you.
we're the opposite of every other podcast that does all their plugs at the end.
Oh, no, we just do it all.
No, we
for
do
you
it
out.
throughout.
All
it
the
forces
time.
people to listen to the whole thing, to
that's
hear
it.
all the plugs.
One of these
Because
days
who
we'll
knows what
sponsor
we're
you.
going to
just
plug
never
in 10
know.
minutes from now.
Exactly.
At any moment.
Any moment.
Who knows when we're going to start the episode?
I'm pretty sure we had a discussion about this 7 years ago or so about the fact that we plug everyone.
It's true.
It's true.
I think it was with Keith Bird.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact,
Yeah, it almost became a property of the established facts. It's like, so what are we plugging today, guys?
that's it. That's it.
That does
Anyhow.
not give any Kickstarter carte blanche to send us you should look at our and promote this and promote this. We're going to promote the things we find fun,
Yeah.
and if you send it to us and we think it's fun, we might say something like Cool Mini or Not, who is apparently going to take all our money again with Marvel X-Men
100%
United.
all my money.
If you send us a demo thing, I promise to at least demo it.
Yeah.
So that said,
Okay.
Modipus Entertainment, you can continue sending those PDFs. We'll either get to them eventually or tell people about them. I've seen so many of their RPGs. They all look like a lot of fun. I just haven't played very many of them, so I'm sorry.
So
Because of the planetary situation. 'Cause
Planetary situation?
I can't say the word, right? 'Cause
So
then it's
many good
considered
things
news.
that could be said. That's right.
Right? Because then we're a news podcast if I say the word.
well,
I'm a
not news. If you guys are
World
taking
current
demos,
events.
then we'll
World
be
current
sending one
events.
to you soonish.
Oh, okay.
Soonish.
I
Working
can't
on-
guarantee anything's going to happen,
I
but
love
sure.
Soonish. Soonish is my favorite.
Well, I and some friends
It's
started
really
working
cool.
on the Real Thing RPG, which is
I remember
actually
you talking to me
a
about
role-playing game based upon Faith No More's not really the first album, but their first major album, The Real Thing. And we actually have gotten the license from the band, and
Oh, well.
it's legit. Like we're doing the thing. So once that is completed with the art and all, we'll send it you guys' way.
Yeah.
Well, look at
Sounds
it.
like a lot of fun.
And
We'll be
it just,
doing
if at all possible, you'd like to do anything like, I don't know, a video of playing the thing with me running it or something.
I mean, I'd be
Like-
down.
I think we have a plan. We just have to have
Yeah.
a thing to.
Jason
make the
just
plan
showed
work.
up so he could get himself promoted in demos. That's
Exactly.
just
No,
what
I didn't
happened.
actually even think about it until I sat down. I was like, oh, that's right, I'm doing things. I forgot I'm not just at school.
I'm not just.
Well, let's do the actual podcast. and then
Oh,
we
is
can
that
come
what
back
we're
around.
here to do?
Yeah,
I thought we were just hanging
Lance
out.
has called us out on it twice already. So
Has he? I didn't even know Lance was here.
Yeah, well, he's over here writing mean notes to you, probably.
because he said I.
French.
Yeah, I was gonna say you didn't know he was here because he couldn't understand what he was
No,
saying.
he said I am. My name is. So that's what.
Oh, that's
I am, and my name is.
All right, Don, why
Wow.
are we here today?
Well, we are going to discuss endings.
That sounds sad.
It does.
It does, and I was so concerned about that. We're not. The podcast isn't ending. We'll be very clear
Oh
about that.
gosh, now we.
Josh, the anticipation.
Spoilers.
No, I didn't want that to be a problem.
No, absolutely not.
Lord.
We're never going to stop podcasting.
Never gonna stop.
Oh Lord, you just said never. We're screwed.
We did for like a year.
We're screwed. Oh Lord.
So,
Never like
because the world
never gonna
stopped.
stop
Did you see
forever.
that?
I mean, like
Yeah,
never
right.
gonna
No,
stop.
because I
Never
kept
gonna-
going.
I mean, I was
Never
doing
gonna-
the
True.
same
I'll
thing.
give
With you on
up.
that one.
Never
I kept
gonna
doing the same
let
thing. I was
you
doing.
down. So, we thought it would be really fun because we love playing in one-shots. We love playing in campaigns. We love playing role-playing games. And obviously, one of the things that can be the most difficult part of playing a game from, I think, both the whoever is the game master of the game and whoever is in the player seat is the ending and how players take the ending and how the game master builds that ending and things like that. So for our versus topic, very quickly, we're going to go around the table and we're going to choose either Peter Falk or Sylvester Stallone. Sorry, what I mean to say is a conclusive ending or a cliffhanger.
Oh.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
have no idea what you're talking about.
So Peter Falk
me neither.
plays the grandfather in The Princess Bride, and obviously The Princess Bride is a beautiful story that has an ending. In the end, they all lived happily ever after. Whereas Sylvester Stallone is, well...
A cliffhanger.
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 It's a movie Cliffhanger.
Yeah.
I got that one. I figured.
He also went over the top a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, that is true. That is
Yeah, but
very
he's
true.
just as expendable now as he was then.
Oh, make him stop. Somebody out there.
That was a rocky finish.
Look, it took him 3 times, okay?
All right, so we're going to go around the table and we're going to choose a conclusive ending, something that is nice, pretty, and tied with a bow, or a
Rambo?
So I want to put a caveat on that. So I'm the one that came up with the idea, and I wanted this to be on a session-by-session basis, not a game-by-game basis, if that makes sense.
cliffhanger. What?
Huh?
Yeah, exactly. That's fine, yeah. So you said...
So session by session.
Session by
would you
session.
prefer a session to end as a cliffhanger, or would you prefer the session to be conclusive?
And this is in like a one-shot
It could be one
circumstance?
shot. Yeah, it could be because during a game, I mean, if
Right.
you're running a campaign, you could be looking forward to the next session. Absolutely. But do you prefer that the previous session ended on a cliffhanger, or was very
Okay, got you.
conclusive? and we're starting the
So
next one?
whether it's a one-shot or not, is the ending of that specific
That's where-
episode leave you in anticipation of the next one, or does it tie things up and then leave you expecting something new and fresh the next time?
What's your preference?
Gotcha. Okay, well, let's go ahead and start opposite of our introduction, and we'll start with Mr. Jason.
Oh man. Okay. Well, from the experience I've had, it really depends on what you're running. Honestly, it depends. Are you running like a tabletop game? Are you running a live action role playing game, or something like that? You know, if it's something where a lot of people gather, they're in costumes. It needs to be done that night. Whatever you're doing, you know, finish up whatever sort of plot or story going on that night, and move on to the next thing. There's always going to be more going on. I would kind of say a similar thing with tabletop, except it is much more fun to always have something happen or something still going on in the world or in their adventure for a character, to leave something of a cliffhanger. Because, yeah, the dice they just don't know what's going to happen in the dice at that point.
So we have our official first fence.
All right, we're already on the fence.
We start on the fence.
Yeah, there we go.
I like it.
Avital.
Honestly, I'm kind of the same mind of like both, because I can see the merit in both, and like it does kind of depend on situations. Like if say I'm playing, you know, an RPG with a group of friends, and it's hard to get us all together, and I'm not sure when the next time we're going to play is, I'm probably more likely to want a conclusion instead of a cliffhanger, so that, you know, I'm not overthinking about what's going to happen for however long it is until I meet again, because that can happen with gaming groups, right? If it's something that, you know, I know, like we meet every 2 weeks or whatever, you know, I definitely know like when the next time is going to be, a cliffhanger is totally fine, gives you that anticipation. If it is something that you are doing for yourself, but also for public consumption, like something like you're doing a live casting of what you're playing or things like that, cliffhangers are definitely recommended, because that makes people want to come back. And you can also look at that like with your players, if you're going to make them want to come back because of the cliffhanger. I mean, I'm not saying like if it's a long-running game, obviously not everything in your world is going to be wrapped up, but some sort of conclusion can definitely be better. At least for me, I know it's going to be a few months until the next time, but cliffhangers are also definitely have their value.
Well, usually we'll come back to discussion time, and I'm fine with that. So I'm just going to say I prefer Cliffhanger, just in general from a session-to-session perspective, because I want to look forward to the next time, even if that means we don't know when the next time is. I still want to look forward to it. That's very much the optimist in me. Not every Cliffhanger can be considered pessimistic, though there are some. He died. You're going to find out what happens next time. But I enjoy a good cliffhanger.
Deb?
I'm going to want a conclusion, which probably surprises nobody at this table. I like feeling that what we did accomplished something. Did we do a thing? And the thing with the cliffhanger is you did it, except is usually what it feels like. And it's like, except what? And I will get lost in my own head between the cliffhanger and when the next part comes. And I'm like thinking about all of the bad things that could have gone wrong, or like, oh my gosh, what are they going to do to us next? Oh my gosh. And before I know it, I've got myself in a spin and I'm sitting down. And when I sit down for the next session, I'm like, all right, we're all going to die. I already know it. Just bring it. And it's like, no, that wasn't what's going to happen at all. You're just going to this city or something, So I would like to know, okay, this one is wrapped up. You did the thing. You get a check mark. You get a gold star. I want to do more. If I'm enjoying the gaming session, I want to do more. I'm going to come back. But I'm like, I did something. Something got done. Because I am a completionist. I am the one who got the 101 on Super Mario World. I'm the one who beat every level ever in Super Mario 3. I'm the completionist. And so I want to know we completed something.
Okay. Monsieur Lance?
Jason Avital, is there room in that fence?
Oh, yeah.
Always.
I'm going to join you.
Always.
Right there.
It's a big
That's
fence. It's very long.
That's,
Many yardage.
it's short. Flat on the
Hopefully
top.
not too pointy, yes.
Very flat.
It's actually more like
fleur-de-lis.
the
Wall at this point.
The Great Wall of indecision.
No, it's double decision.
Oh my gosh, that is a T-shirt if I've ever heard one. The Great Wall of Indecision.
I think that needs to be written down somewhere. And I see Dawn's pen
Calm down.
moving,
Calm down.
so-
Let me do my job, woman.
Sorry. Hey,
It's my wife you're talking to.
sorry.
remember
Let
the
me do my
conclusion
job.
part?
Man, the establishment.
Josh's wife.
Josh's
Deb.
wife. What?
Wow. Just being
I
dumb.
lost my name.
That's right.
Okay, it's just Josh's wife. I get it.
And John,
I
what
said
about
Deb
you?
Right after that.
Yeah, Dawn.
I
Go ahead and join the fence.
really enjoy.
Oh.
No. Because I understand where Lance and Jason and Avital are coming from. I think that everything can be situational in the world of gaming. But I have to actually agree with Dr. Deb when it comes to gameplay. I really enjoy
This never happens.
feeling the conclusive ending of a story, whether it's a short story or a story that kind of carries on for a few episodes. I look forward to and anticipate that conclusion. I really love this is the end. That doesn't necessarily mean it has to be the end for forever.
This is the end.
But
Exactly.
but it being
It's a
the
Doors
end
song.
of the end of whatever that event was. I just think that when we do a Pathfinder exclusive, it's just so much more exciting to get to the end of that and feel
Yes.
like, man, cool, we accomplished the big thing. We got the MacGuffin, whatever that might be. Versus I've been in and I think that that's where it comes from. I've been in too many role-playing experiences in my life, which I figured out the other day that I've been role-playing for 21 years. So
How long you been married?
At this point, my role-playing age, I could start drinking now.
Hey.
But in 21 years of playing, I have been in many games that have just kind of had a cliffhanger and then it
Exactly.
peters out. And I think that
That's
just
the Thelma
comes-
and Louise ending.
Yeah.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Where you just,
It's hard to do a cliffhanger. It's hard to
Yeah.
do a cliffhanger well.
I agree.
And then capitalize on it next time.
I agree. And I think that's probably
That's why writing is hard too.
right.
Because they're like, end every chapter with like leaving them wanting something, and I'm like, it's hard to do that every single chapter, guys.
Yeah, right.
But resolution
well, yeah,
is
I mean,
also good.
exactly. And I think
Then write short stories.
That's like a whole
Oddly enough,
different
about a
format
chapter
that
long.
just requires you to just shift your brain a different way.
Well, and I think that
There's so much frustration coming from her right now.
Absolutely. Well, the writer.
The writer is sharing the
I'm not
grief.
good at short stories. I want to.
See, and that's what I
want
really
there to be
love
more
doing
to
is
it.
short stories. Like give me I used to do these really silly short stories with my kids, and I literally just made up everything on the fly. But it was always we would do it was these characters, and it was a 20-minute time frame, and then we would end it. So yes, Lance.
I think we have talked a lot about as players, but as the game master, I prefer it one way. As a player, I prefer it another.
I think as a player, and now, of course, I'm grand total of what? I've game mastered 4 games. I think I'm up to 4 sessions.
That's 4 more than a lot of people.
Oh, well, okay. True. So I think I'm still a conclusionist because I want my players to feel like they maybe I need a better definition of a cliffhanger, because I want my players to feel like they accomplished something, and yet there might be more, and then it's more like, are you guys going to come back for more? Or because otherwise you could close the book here, but you still got that room that you never went into. But rather than be like, you hear an enormous growl come from the next room and thump, 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 and see you next time. Like, that's a cliffhanger, right?
something,
As
yeah.
opposed
Yeah, that's
to
a cliffhanger.
you haven't done the extra room. Is that a cliffhanger? Or is that you just didn't do it?
It can be. It definitely can be.
Okay.
It really just depends on how you frame it.
And
Yeah.
you can go into a
Okay.
room that has 3 doors, and that's where you rest, and that's where that session ends.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
Or you can go into a room that has 3 doors. As you guys begin to rest, 1 door opens. All right, guys, see you next time.
Okay.
There's
Yeah.
your cliffhanger.
Right. I wouldn't like that. This is Deb going, I would be like, oh my gosh. Seriously, we're all going to die. It's going to be a beholder, and it's going to be Cthulhu. It's going to, I would just
Man, if
terrify
it's
myself.
Cthulhu, I'm shaking
He's
his
looking
hand.
at me right there, so I got to just,
Waiting on you.
And as a storyteller, you're feeding me ideas that I didn't even have before.
exactly. So it's all my own
as
fault.
the dungeon master, I dig them because I can come up with stuff between now and the next session.
Mm-hmm.
But as a player, I'm like, yeah, we did the thing. I'm good. Let's stop. But I also have it like level dependent. When I'm running for a group at low levels, I want them to have a conclusion. You do the thing, you get the experience, you rest and heal up so that you can do the thing again tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
When you get to the Goldilocks levels, that's like 3 through 6. That's when you can do cliffhangers because you want them to keep pushing forward and driving forward. And then once you get past the Goldilocks levels, then it's into story dependent. We spent the entire session in one war, one fight scene. So we're just going to stop where it's natural to conclude that session instead of maybe where the story tells us we can. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think yeah, I can get behind that if running like level dependent systems. There are also many systems that are not at all dependent upon levels, and they're more upon character motivations and player desires and what like they want to achieve. And I've learned a lot from running those systems and playing within them to really utilize even in level dependent games. And afterwards, like, these new systems, let me come back and now kind of use what I've learned in these level dependent systems, which I prefer as well, and take that and use them as the cliffhangers instead of or as like the unresolved things at the end. Maybe you finish the dungeon, but you got this message from your general or your lord or whatever, and it's something terrible or something amazing, but there is definitely an expectation at the end. There is definitely something coming that you know about. And so again, not like I agree, the conclusion is important. You finish that thing, but you have an idea of like, this is next, and this is big, and what's going to happen, and this is a revelation of some kind, and you really can't deal with it until next time. And utilizing those character motivations to really get the players into the game then, as opposed to just, and not that this is bad at all, the door opens, we don't know what's going to be there, see you next time. I think utilizing that it connects the players to the game more, utilizing their motivations for those cliffhangers.
Along the lines of the motivation, I think, and this can be challenge to do, is reading your players to give them enough time to. Some of them need more of a conclusion than others, and some of them need more time to process that conclusion than others. So I'll use the game we played yesterday as an example because it was literally yesterday. So it was a one-shot. Pathfinder 2e Sundering Waves.
Sundered
Waves, thank you. And I never played this character before, but it was a good story. So I definitely recommend it. It was really good. And it had a satisfying conclusion. You can tell whoever wrote this designed it. It's a one-shot. You're going to do this. You're going to get to a point. And you've done the thing. And you can close the book and go, that was just a fun story. And Josh gave us a cliffhanger, which is supposed to bring us all into Age of Ashes. But Deb, wanted more time to process the conclusion. That's just me wanting something. Now, do I always get what I want? No. But there was more there. And so I spent last night figuring out how can I satisfy this Deb desire to finish this, because it didn't happen in the game. So how can I give myself enough of a personal conclusion that I'll be satisfied? And yet there was going to be questions with it. And so I literally was last night and then this morning as I processed how am I going to do this. And I told him about it and I was like, what about this? And I asked him a question about what are you going to do if I wake up as in the Age of Ashes? And this is the question I ask you about the game we did in Sundered Waves, because I want more. And so there's players who are going to want that. There are others that aren't going to care. But there are players that are like, I just want that last scene. Like the Lord of the Rings, the last scenes that you get.
The 6 different endings for that movie?
Exactly. And yet it shows you all these different aspects of how it closed. Tolkien wrote how many appendices to that book? I think there are 7 appendices.
Yeah.
Because he just kept giving you more and more of closing this, and here's what happened here, and here's what happened here. He wanted his readers to feel a satisfying conclusion to the whole thing. And maybe that's the reason I adore Tolkien, is because he gave that to me. Like, I know what happened. Like, I know what all of these characters' end story was, and you could close the Red Book of the West March.
I love you, honey, but I'm not J.R. Tolkien, right?
No, that is very true.
That's a
he's dead, so you're alive, so
Not
that's already
even
good.
English.
Yeah, you're alive, so that's already a plus. But
Lance?
Well, what I was going to add to Deb is that you can do what Avital and I did with one of our games. If you don't get that conclusion you want, write to your storyteller, your dungeon master, whatever. Like, can I finish this story? Can I work with you? Or if we're going to do this again, can we put this into the story?
Right.
We wrote a complete chapter about how that game ended and transitioned from that game to the next game.
yes, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
By
a
all
little
means,
bit.
feel free to do that.
Give the
I think that's
transition.
very important, actually. And as a GM, a many years like the eternal GM, essentially, at this point, that is something I found is very important to do, is communicate with the players. Hey, what does your character want? What do you want to see in this game? What are the goals you have? And then work those in the story, which is why I come back to the motivations part. It's like, it's very important to satisfy that player's desire to see certain things. You can let the dice roll determine whether they succeed at it or not, but to at least give them the opportunity to have those conclusions and have those story elements they want within there. That's the hallmark of a great game master. If we're talking about like one-shots written, you're doing pre-made one-shots, you're doing modules. Well, different story, right? It's all there for you. You get what you get. But when
one shot, you don't
creating
really
a campaign,
need a cliffhanger because it's a one shot.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
There is no
It's
next episode.
precisely.
So, so this has come up in previous episodes, and it's a lot of the reason why I tend to gravitate towards the modules or adventures or adventure paths. Actually, have nothing to do with they already have everything written. They have the creative element of the story written, and I mention that because I'm not much of a storyteller. But what I am pretty good at is watching the characters completely derail the story. But at least I've got some bookends to work in, including some of the stuff that they were coming up with yesterday, which was just hilarious, like sneaking past a bunch of giant ants to trigger a giant elemental. And they had an element in there that you could let the elemental fight the ants, but they were probably going to do that anyways. Well, it was great just to see that. But things along those lines. And then Deb, when we filmed the little video I mentioned earlier, said that I was going to connect this one shot with the Age of Ashes, which
I thought you said you were going to.
I was going to get you guys working as a party, so you understood what it was like to work together, as in Don, Deb, Josh, and Bonnie. But it's okay. I worked with it nonetheless. And I had fun with that. But now, as much as I've seen her be emotionally invested in the fact that I messed it up in her head, the Age of Ashes may not have anything about piracy in it, but it does not mean that their Age of Ashes may not have anything to do with the Sundered Waves.
Right.
So
Maybe it'll just be me, in which case I'm okay with that.
And
I'm totally okay playing a character that's obsessed with this very strange thing. It probably will be very entertaining,
Yes.
frankly. If nobody else wants to follow me in my bizarre obsession, I actually don't mind. Deb does not mind that. But I just said that would give me a motivation within an extra quirk inside my Age of Ashes character, is that she's going to be a wizard, but she's a wizard with an odd interest in piracy and tengus and like, is that possible? Is that a past life? Like, can you experience a past life like that? Can you experience a past life of everybody? I mean, she's going to be doing all sorts of strange arcana, reading bizarre tomes and books to figure this out. She's probably going to be a scholar, and she's just going to have her nose in a book trying to figure it out on the top of, the whole Age of Ashes thing. But it'll be, and I think it just adds an extra little layer of quirkiness, which I also think it'll be really fun to play. So,
Yeah, that's very much. I mean, that's key, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because at least this is how it was when I was 12, right? And it stands true today. You're playing with your friends at a table, so you want your friends to have fun, and you're like, oh, you liked this thing, and you want this thing from it. Oh, we can do that. Yeah, we can add this in. We can make this thing cool. That because that's what it's all about. Let's all have fun together. It's that shared imaginative space, and that's the most important thing about gaming. That I think for a period of time may have been forgotten by some people, and not anybody at this table, just some, the
Other
gaming verse.
people, out there.
But that is the most important thing about gaming. You're sitting at a table with your friends to have fun with each other for an evening, once a week, or however often you can do it.
That is one of the reasons that I propose, and I'm a proponent of the Session Zero. You can find that out at the very beginning of the entire thing, so that all right, you guys, do you want to wrap things up every time? Or do you want me to be able to push just a little bit further to keep you interested, right? When my daughter was very young, I told her Wizard and Warrior stories. Same thing like you did with your boys, except ours always ended on a cliffhanger. Because I wanted her to keep wanting me to tell her stories. It worked, because now she's her own storyteller, right? But if it had just been, and they all lived happily ever after, next story, okay, she gets a story that night. But with the continuing story that she's involved in, and she gets to make the decisions for one of the characters in that story, she wants to know what's happening next. And she would even say, are we leaving it on a cliffhanger again? But she would always come back, Dad, can you finish that story? I want to know what happens. So, again,
That's cool.
As a storyteller, I love those moments. As a player, I want it done.
So, I wrote down a couple of questions. That's why I did not necessarily interject during the conversation, because I just am enjoying kind of how the conversation is unfolding. So, what I'd like to kind of discuss a little bit of is what experiences do we have as players with unexpected conclusion or unexpected cliffhanger conclusions. So, Deb, you talked a little bit about our game yesterday, in that what was expected was that our little party of 4 former crewmates, we find this beautiful ship.
We've gone on another adventure after a while.
As we walk to that ship, we're going to get on this boat, and we even kind of talked a little bit about what our ideas were to how we were going to conclude that. And then all of a sudden we wake up from this dream, this shared vision, and we're all 4 completely different people in like an inn room.
It's an inn.
I
looked it up.
An empty bed, and then
I know where we are.
4 people in one bed?
No.
No, like this game.
So we're all, we're all staying in an inn, and we all wake up from this strange shared dream as people that are not even the same people that were in this dream.
Yeah.
And so to me, I was like, oh, I mean, that was cool. Like, I'm down. I'm down. Like, I love a good, nice little bow. But I also understood that, like, the idea was, whether it was originally supposed to be or it was something that happened on the fly, the idea was this experience was going to be a shared experience that then we were going to be able to translate into the next long-term campaign we're going to play together. So I was in for it, but it was definitely something that was unexpected. And so another story that I was thinking of, and I've probably told this story before, so I'll keep it short, but I was running a game. It was one of the first Dungeons & Dragons games, actually, that I ran for some friends. And in that game, my wife was playing a character who, in her history, her father was a psionic character, and she played a what was called the Wilder class. So it was kind of like wild psionics. You weren't super disciplined, but you could be very powerful because it was, a little chaotic.
Primal or natural energy was
my
driving
favorite.
you.
My favorite Sonic class.
and in one of the last sessions that we had, it was kind of culminating to the end. We had like 2 more sessions after this, I think. She runs into her father, who I placed in as a character or an NPC instead of the character that the module that I happened to be using at the time had, because it just, as a DM, you have to make a call like that because it fits. Narratively, it fits, and it was great. And they had this crazy combat that literally lasted 1 round. And they killed him. And then my wife broke at the table.
Yep.
Because the character that she had been playing for so long,
Yes.
having this image of her dad in her backstory about how he had affected her, is now holding the newly deceased body of her dad. And it was like all of a sudden, this unexpected conclusion of her story
Right.
just affected her in such a powerful way.
Yes.
And I, as her, I think we had only been married for a few years at this point, and this is the first game that I'm running for my wife, and I'm like, oh gosh, what do I do now?
Right.
I broke everything. But it was a really cool experience for me as a GM to have, and it was a really cool experience for her as a player to have, and I think everybody else at the table shared in that experience, because now all of a sudden this character that they've been associated with for so long is literally having an emotional breakdown
Right.
in the game.
In game, yeah.
And so something like that, it doesn't necessarily have to be that intense, but can you guys think of a time where you were affected by something that not that it was necessarily the end of the game or the end of that session or even the end of that campaign, but something that felt like an unexpected conclusion to something that may have affected you in that way? I know that Lance and Avital kind of talked a little bit about some of that, but I just, I want to examine that a little bit with us. So, Avital, go
It's
for
not
it.
me and Lance. Oh my! Oh
It's not me.
no, I'm
Not at all.
no. I'm just, well, I looked at Lance because it involved both of our characters. I've talked about this many times on the podcast before, I think. But one thing before I start that, it was funny because Jason has made me cry multiple times
And in games too.
Just keeping it straight.
as my game master
Wait, let me
before
explain.
before we ever got married. So it was fun.
And
I'm an
she still
emotional
said
person.
yes. That's all that matters.
I'm an emotional person that gets deeply connected to my characters.
I run very connected games, very deeply emotional games.
Yeah, I mean, well, was it? When did we? January. In January, we finished off a campaign that Jason had been running for 15 years.
Ooh.
Nice.
I was only in it for the last 3, but anyways,
Still.
Bro,
no, but
Right.
that's intense.
That's
yeah,
real.
no, it's
Oh.
his world is so fleshed out and well made. The maps are amazing.
You're married to him, Avital. We don't. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
You're going home with him.
If you
That's right.
go on my YouTube and
But
watch
she's trying to talk me into going home.
I'm going to say we might all be going home to look at this world.
Yes.
Go on my YouTube and Avital Elizabeth and
yeah.
watch the RPG Storytime ones, and you'll see we're talking about the story of my character. It's a plug, yes. Follow me on Twitch
39
too.
minutes.
Twitch.tv/Avital Elizabeth.
There you go.
Follow me on Twitch.
I was going to give her the opportunity. So
I know.
She just did
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Yeah, I know. I was going to do it. Anyways. This is farther back. This was, so the first long campaign I played, I played a half-elf gunslinger called Tarala. Mm-hmm. And then the next long campaign I played was connected to that campaign. It wasn't in the same world, but it was. I mean, it kind of was. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm not getting. It's complicated.
Paladin versus Pelurin. It's okay.
It's complicated.
It wasn't really
Thanks,
in the
Derek.
same world.
Yeah.
It was good, very good.
Derek's
So in the second campaign, I played the sister of character from the first game. Now, in the first game, Lance and I were in the same group, and he was playing an angel, basically. And
He was an angelic.
we, because of what happened at the end of that campaign, all of the other players except the two of us went off somewhere else, and we stayed back on like the world we were originally from. And so we talked out some stuff about like how what would have happened in their time spent together, and I figured out, that they would eventually have gotten together, and then how they would have had to have been parted. So in the next campaign, I'm playing the sister, Castella.
You're getting emotional now.
No, that was me remembering. That was me trying to remember her name, Castella. But we get to a point later in the campaign, and the point of this character is that as a child, she had like all of the memories of her past life as the sister. So she still like missed her sister and never knew what happened to her. We get to a point in the game where we do some favor for a god or something. I don't remember. And they said, "What do you want?" And some of the other players, like, we had just pulled from a deck of many things, and they had bad things happen to them, and so they fixed that. I didn't have any bad things happen to me, so I was like, I want my sister back. So I got my sister back, and her husband, who was not the angel, because the angel was
Off-world fighting in a war.
yeah, he was elsewhere. Anyways, so at that point, I was playing my original character, the sister, and the husband, who was not the love of the life, and the original character was also pregnant with twins, but not with the husband. And then also, we sort of started a new season of the game, and Lance joined our party, but he was still playing the same character, the angel, even though the angel was much different at that point. So we eventually get to a point where the husband disappears, and we are looking for him, and then we run into a big boss fight, and it turns out that it's him that we're fighting against, and he's been gone for years. Oh, you found the video. Oh my gosh.
I have the whole 10-minute video from that.
I mean, I probably have it somewhere.
He sent it to me.
So we're in this fight, and the angel is really hard to hit, extremely hard to hit. But we get to a point in the fight where an attack is directed at my original character, Tarala, and nothing happens to her, but it goes straight through to the angel, and it hits him. And once the person we're fighting against, who is the husband, realizes that, he directs all his attacks against her to get to the angel. So by the time the fight ends, both her husband and the love of her life are dead. And she's pregnant with twins. I literally was sitting there. I stuffed a blanket under my shirt, I think.
Yeah.
You were LARPing.
So I was emotional, and then there was a note from the husband, and it explained like a little bit about what happened, and I was crying, but it was all very, because he was gone. like just suddenly, and everything all happened in the same like time frame. Like, you know, I cried. Of course I cried because I'm a crying person. But it was still like, that was very intense, but that wasn't even like the most emotional part of it. The most emotional part of it was when we got to the point where she was having the babies, and then the angel was like kind of there through like magical things. That was like really what really got me. Oh, like the fact that he'd like built a place for them to live and all this stuff, like without me knowing and finding out these things. And it was so, even though like we never like figured out, oh, what happened after the kids were born and did they all live, whatever. But just the fact that he, even though he had died, he was able to like still be there in essence, you know, for the kids being born and everything. It's for someone like me who gets emotionally connected to things easily, like it's a lot, but it's still really good. Like, it's really good to have the story. And again, like, it wouldn't have been meant as much if Lance and I hadn't like talked about our characters together and worked on backstory and written out some things and everything. Like, I even wrote like a short story about just a thing that happened like after game ended, you know, in the world. Although I sent that to an author friend, he's like, "This is great." He's like, "This is not a short story." He's like, "This is absolutely wonderful, and you need to make this into something longer." And I'm like, like I said earlier, I'm bad at writing short stories. Bad at writing short stories. But I like having, you know, some sort of ending, because just sort of stopping in a random spot and not having any kind of there's a word that I'm thinking of.
Conclusion?
No.
That is a word, but it's not the right word.
Satisfaction.
Finality.
Closure.
Closure's
Good
better.
Closure.
Yeah.
That's the word. Not having any closure. Like, sure, you're not gonna like necessarily know exactly what happened to this character throughout their whole life, but having some kind of closure, at least, especially if you've been playing it for a long time, is really important for me as a player and a person, I guess.
So
I forget what the question was.
it's discussed some of your favorite endings,
Gamer stories,
basically. Things that
An unexpected
ending, yeah.
cliffhanger ending.
So, Avital is a great player to have at the table, because she's, I mean this in the best possible way, she's easy to pull the emotional heartstrings on.
It's true.
My wife is not. And yet I have seen both things happen.
Right.
Okay. So
I like to play the in-between.
right. I have not done this yet as a game master with Deb yet. I hope to eventually, but I'm not there yet. So I'm gonna do two shorter stories, because both I think make sense. For Avital, I ran a one-shot Quags game at Fear the Con, and I did it 2 years in a row, actually. So the expected ending, which was they were traveling with this guy, and they were taking down the big baddie, which I don't remember. I think they were putting Cthulhu away. Like, I think was the whole shtick behind it. And the guy that ultimately was there and ended up saving them turned out to be the Doctor, so from Doctor Who fame.
Just the whole setup is, the first setup of it was that it was pirates versus ninjas. And
Yes.
then it was that we were against Cthulhu, and then
Oh, it went all kinds of crazy places.
It was great.
I'd never done
it's
anything else.
Quags.
Yeah, it was Quags.
That's
was
why, 'cause
Yes.
it's Quags.
was that my first
your
Fear the Con?
first
That was
Fear
my
the Con.
first Fear the Con, and that was my first game, and I was so glad that at my first game, because I was super nervous, was run by someone
Yeah.
I knew. Anyways.
It went really well, and just the sheer joy on her face, because the Doctor gave her the opportunity to travel with him, which meant she, as a
Became a
character,
companion.
got to become a companion, right? I knew that I was not only going to continue that story the next year, but I had to come up with some sort of a twist, but I hadn't figured out what it was. This is a 4.5 hour session, and you may not know this part of it, but I'm 4 hours in. We're in the last battle, and I'm like, okay, we've got to take a break, use the restroom, whatever. We're going to finish this up. But everyone leaves the table, Adam stands up. Adam Godfrey. If you're listening, you'll remember this. I looked at him and said, I need you to just go with me, because he was playing the Doctor. He knew we were doing a Doctor Who story. He wanted to be the Doctor. He's like, this sounds like a lot of fun. I said, I need you to go with me. He has no idea what I'm going to do, and totally took faith and did it. And then they're fighting on a spaceship. Like they're helping the crew of the Enterprise.
I was playing like the same character.
Again, Quags.
The companion.
That makes no sense, but the Doctor's helping the crew of the Enterprise or something along those lines. And
Those crossovers exist.
Oh, yes. Something goes off. Some temporal whatever. I came up with some stupid name. I don't even remember all the details behind it. And the souls or the personalities of the Doctor and the companion switched physical bodies.
That tracks.
And thus, Avital went from being the companion to the next time we were supposed to play, which was supposed to be 2 years ago. 2 cons ago. Sorry. Last year. Yeah, I'm supposed to. Avital's the Doctor. And the look on her face was almost even more priceless than when she became the companion. She's like, wait a minute. Are you telling me I'm the Doctor now?
That's awesome.
This was a year before they had a female Doctor, right?
Yes.
On the
Yeah.
TV
Yeah.
show.
Jody hadn't been a Doctor.
You did it first.
I was creative, yes.
You did it?
Deb, on the other hand,
TM.
Great.
as a player, I have witnessed her fight the same villain 3 times.
Oh my gosh.
And then I reintroduced him at the end of our last game just because I knew that it would get the right emotional impact. So one time as a game master, I realized wait a minute, you did what? I made Derek's character, whom she'd been traveling with through the entire Emerald Spire Super Dungeon. When they popped out on the other side, they were in Peлагane, and Derek's character, in a glorious sacrifice, mind you, had turned into Milton. I don't remember what his last name. Milton Derek was what it was based off of. From
But it was a different last name.
He changed the last name for Peлагane rights. Milton Derek was the name of the anti,
I like Derek,
something like that.
It's something close to that.
Was the name of the anti-paladin in the world's largest city, which is one of the
That's
first
his
games. Again,
hillbilly-
I take a framework, create a
Hillbilly
story.
cousin. Milton
And
Derek
the
and
look,
Milton Darryl.
I texted
his
Derek
other
and
brother,
was
Darryl.
like, I 3 sessions before, at least prepared a little more, and let him know. It's like, hey, this is what we're going to do. And he's like, oh, I'm totally down.
I remember
Like-
you telling me that you were going to do that too.
and just the look on her face, pure almost
I can't
shock
do
and
it.
anger.
I was so mad. I'm like,
That's
he's
his origin
mine.
story.
It is.
I was like,
It is. We did it
Never
about.
even knew it.
Yeah. So.
yeah.
I thought for
You
sure
don't have
you were
to
going
go
to go
next,
with the
but-
Dragon Riders.
Oh no, I've told that story so many times, and
Yeah.
it was unexpected. But Derek throwing that type of a curveball at me, having been in Lost Religion Found, though very emotional, not unexpected. That was that you asked for unexpected. I certainly wasn't expecting her to get as excited, Avital that is. And Deb, I kind of had a feeling, but not to the level where I felt like she was going to burn my eyes out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was hilarious.
Well,
It was a little intense because
getting towards kind of the end of our discussion, I just wanted to ask a quick question before we kind of wrap things up. As far as types of games, what do you feel like are the best types of games to play for both a conclusive? Let me just read the question I wrote down. What types of games cater more toward conclusive or a cliffhanger ending?
Video games.
Just to kind of help people out if they're looking for something to get into that kind of caters more towards, like for example, I feel like, especially with one shots, Pathfinder, First Edition, Second Edition, Starfinder, whatever.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Those, yeah, I feel like most D20s, especially one-shots, are really built for conclusive endings. They're really built for consumable 4 to 5 hour, 4 to 6 player sessions that you can just bang out, have a great time, be on an adventure the whole time, and then when you get done with it, you're like, man, that was a really fun story.
So is Shadowrun.
Shadowrun?
Shadowrun's very good at this is the job, you do the run, game over, session over, next session, set up the next job, do the job.
Gotcha.
It doesn't have to always be that way, right? And you get a creative game master, and maybe maybe not each run is so simple.
Right.
But that's what it's really set up for. It's also
Okay.
very good for that.
Okay. So when it comes to games that are a little bit more catered to or have the open availability for cliffhangers or open endings, if we will, what are some of our gaming experiences, or not gaming experiences, but what are some of our recommendations when it comes to the types of games that we've played that we feel like cater well towards a cliffhanger? Go ahead, Jason.
I'd say storyteller systems, anything, White Wolf, anything like that.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, they're very good at that. And even if you have a conclusive ending, there's still a lot of weird things out there, and so that there is rarely a conclusion. The idea is that story continues.
Yeah.
As well, Fate system. Fate does a very good job of non-conclusive.
I was going to ask if anyone had played the Call of Cthulhu game.
Oh, you're totally right.
Because especially when that horror-based, Lovecraftian, the mysterious, the mystery that comes with the Elder Gods, or that comes with all of the strange directions that a Lovecraftian world takes you. To me, that would be a glorious cliffhanger system, because you could literally, and you can, this sounds terrible, but you're going to play on your character's horror and fears. That's the idea behind that. Or go to these places that are, kind of weird, which is what Lovecraft did. So I would say that would be I wouldn't feel like that would be, let's close this up and wrap this all up, because Cthulhu's going to sit in the corner until we come back to him.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is, whatever kind of horror
We sealed all the Elder Gods.
They're all
what
away.
could go
They're
wrong?
sitting in their own tables and they're okay now. No,
right.
I would definitely say that would be a good cliffhanger one to go.
Definitely.
We've also got like board games. Board games are structured so that there is an end to them, but now lately, Zombicide,
legacy
games,
games,
Pandemic
Ghostbusters,
Legacy,
these things where
Zombicide.
you've done the thing. Okay, you can just totally put that away, or you can play the next level of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can keep going with the same game with the same characters when your friends decide that they all want to get together again.
Well, and they've taken that. A lot of that has come from the video game world as well. I mean, a great example has been Insomniac Games' Spider-Man series on PlayStation. If you have PlayStation 4 or 5, my goodness, play both those games and please go through the credits.
Yeah.
Because what they've done, they're Marvel. It's a thing.
Yeah.
You can end the game as soon as the story's over with. Like, it's done. You finish the story. Credits roll. Get on out. You never have to play another game. But if you make it past the credits, they're setting you up for another game. What's interesting is that both Marvel Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales are setting up for the same sequel.
Yes.
They did not set up for the other one.
Yes.
It's so good. So good. Highly recommend it.
I know what's
But-
coming there, and yes.
Yes.
I was just asking, this is probably another episode, you're writing this down. Has
I
Marvel
am now.
and Disney, because of what they've done in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, over a decade now, we're at 12 years now? Thank you to all the world stuff. The way they set up the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the movies, isn't that what they did? They would wrap up their story in their movie, but then they would always just give you a little bit more. Or they would tie two or three together.
Except Infinity War.
Well, no. And then Infinity War,
Right,
they
'cause
finally...
that was the end of an entire...
Yes, I know.
Exactly. I mean, that was a 10-year
Well, in
journey.
Endgame. No. Infinity War
Endgame.
and Endgame. They
Yeah.
were both...
Right.
There was no post-credit scene. It was what just happened and wait a year.
Oddly enough,
And I don't
Infinity War
watch
could go either
Endgame
way.
because Infinity War is where it stopped for me.
Really, that was just where you were. Yeah. Well, the thing is, it can be a stopping point. You could you could end it there, and you have an
And you'd
ending.
be very confused the next time it comes around. Is why is he back?
Right. But or you could go on. It could be a cliffhanger, and you go on to Endgame. It could do it either way. But I was just wondering. I was like, is that idea that we see in all of the video games and in the board games? Because they did that. Because they tied that many together in that long a string, and they made the person who watched Iron Man 1, they finally gave them their payoff.
Yeah, but,
Well, and
but Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Totally.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
I think that the art of the cliffhanger versus the art of the conclusion. The art of the conclusion is it's like writing a good paper. You know, when you write a paper, you tell them what you're going to tell them. Mm-hmm. You tell them
What you're telling them.
what you're telling them, and then you tell them what you told them.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's all you have to do to make a good conclusion in a game. Is you set up the bad guy, you have them encounter all the stuff that the bad guy deals out, then they take out the bad guy, and then you close up shop.
Then they become the bad guy.
And then they become the bad guy, and that's why Jason and I are linked in our mind.
That reminds me of something.
Okay, hang on just a second.
Go ahead.
And I'll let you go. But with the art of a cliffhanger, I feel like builds off of investment. The investment of your players, the investment of the DM, knowing, and I call back to what Jason and Lance said about like session 0, asking your players what they're looking for in their gaming experience and stuff like that. Because when you know that, and you have a solid, and this is something that I struggle with sometimes with running homebrew games, is having a solid foundation of story and how you're going to build it up and then bring it down. Because it's really every session and every campaign is its own story arc.
Right.
Every session is a story arc that builds from the last one. Every campaign is an overarching story. So having that investment is really... when you have that investment, cliffhangers are easy. If you don't have that investment, cliffhangers are tough
Totally
to
agree.
get into. So go ahead, Lance.
Well, you were mentioning the conclusion, and that reminded me of a game that I played when I was in college. It was a Vampire the Masquerade game.
Yeah.
And that's the game system. If you haven't played it, it's biblically based on Cain, the brother of Abel, the son of Adam. He is the spoilers. Progenitor.
Spoilers, yeah.
The guy that created
The first vampire.
Yeah.
all other
Cursed by
vampires. He
God.
wasn't it himself. He created them from his blood. So we had been playing in a game for 2 years. I mean, I went to this college. It was a 2-year college. It was junior college. The last session that we had, it was supposed to be like the end, the great big poobah, the big bad guy that was controlling all things, was going to destroy all of us. It was just how the game ends. Usually there's a lot of destruction. And if you make it through, great. You're not probably going to. But the storyteller, made a mistake in that he, before we all died, gave us a wish.
Yep.
And so I had killed a guy, and his brother, because the guy just made a character that was the guy's brother, trope. He wished for his brother to come back. Another guy wished to have his stats as high as they could go, so he'd be the strongest, the most powerful guy that he could possibly be. And then the storyteller came to me and I said, save me for last, because I didn't know what I wanted yet. And he went on, and there were 3 or 4 more other wishes, and finally he said, okay, this is it. What do you want? And I wish Cain had never been born. It had to be granted because everybody else got their wish, but it unmakes the game.
Exactly.
So there's a super surprise ending.
Legit undid the paradox backlash that was the entirety of the basis for that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Ooh.
I mean, that's a heck of an ending.
it is. It's a definite ending,
Oh yeah.
but it's not because our
right.
characters got to continue. We were in this weird stasis of what do you do, and then I graduated, and then I went on to the military. So we didn't play that game again until I had come back 10 years later.
Yeah.
And we just picked up from that moment because everybody wanted to know because it just ended.
Right.
What happens next?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can see like you can end a game
Wow.
surprisingly, but it can still be a cliffhanger.
Yeah, absolutely.
True.
Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff. Well, I think that's a good conclusion for this episode.
I see what you did there.
Wow. Okay.
Oh.
Well,
Wow.
do we have anything that we want to plug real quick?
I'm hoping to get this out either the 3rd or 4th of May, so please check out squaredcirclex.com. I believe is what it is, Squared Circle
Yeah.
Expo on Facebook.
Yeah, yeah.
The Established Facts, at least Don and I will be there representing as wrestling nuts, taking
That's right.
photos, talking to people. Thank goodness conventions are sort of back. Definitely check out Avital, twitch.tv/Avital Elizabeth. Is that correct? And YouTube
He's also
/Avital
on-
Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Are you on Twitter under the same hand?
Yep.
Or okay, there
I'm
you go.
Avital Elizabeth
And the
everywhere.
Book of
Instagram
Faces.
too. Yeah. I mean, you would have to search for Avital Elizabeth because if you went to facebook.com/Avital Elizabeth, it would take you.
And it's the Geek of All Trades on Facebook.
Geek
is
of all
that correct?
trades.
Yep. And then, of course, Jason over here with Synthis. Check him out on Bandcamp and YouTube. Anywhere else they need to be looking for you?
No, that's it. That'd be the best places, please. Thank you.
Yeah, a.k.a. the financial places. Please support him.
So true.
It's the truth. I mean, not going to lie about that. Lance, are they expecting you anywhere else but these
I don't have any social medias, so if you run into me on the street, say hi.
There you go.
If you recognize this voice, I'm happy to talk to you.
That's right. You can have a face-to-face interaction at Community South practice with Deb.
Yeah, well,
This is only for the school teachers and stuff that are in Deb's practice.
yeah. If there's anybody out there, I don't think so,
That
but
could
I
be
could be
fun.
surprised.
Here's my card, and here's my other card.
All right,
What is
yeah.
this? What's
Here's
the
the important
stable
card,
she fax?
and then here's my doctor card.
Right, exactly. Well, I am known as the person who does wear very the geeky name the reels for your name badge. I have Grogu.
Nice.
I've got a world title belt. I've got a Money in the Bank belt badge
Makes me
holder.
giggle.
Yeah, no, and it's hilarious because I had somebody who was like, "Is that the world title belt from WW?" And I was like, yes it is, because I feel in a world title mood today. And he's like, okay, tomorrow might be Money in the Bank, I don't know. And he just starts laughing, and he thought it was
That's
great.
great.
So it's a great conversation starter.
As a very, very, very 30-second or less side note, Josh, Deb, and I went to a wrestling show a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
November
and-
2019.
Yeah.
That's the last time we went.
Yes,
And
it was.
we ran into a gal you work with, right?
That's
at
her.
the same show.
She bought them for me.
Oh my
the,
gosh,
the
that's
two,
so
she bought them
great.
for me.
It was
Danny
so
is-
funny.
Danny, if you're listening, I highly doubt you're listening. Yeah, it was so much
You
fun.
should be.
Yeah, she was like, because I was carrying an AEW replica of the title belt, and it was a beautiful belt. She was too, and we're like, wait a minute. And so it was hilarious because we're just like, really? And we're like looking
My
at each
part
of the
was less than
replicas, and it was fantastic. Yeah.
Cool.
So did I plug everything that's upcoming?
I think so. Well, yeah, we
PaizoCon.
got PopCon coming up. in
PaizoCon at the
July.
Memorial Day.
PaizoCon, Memorial Day
weekend.
weekend.
PaizoCon's at the end of May. If you're going to the Indy 500, that's at the end of May.
Yeah,
Yes.
so
If
AEW,
you're
no nothing.
Yeah,
Oh,
double nothing is at the end of May.
Oh,
The little 500s.
What else you got at the end of May?
nothing. Just, well, it will be in September, but The Real Thing RPG. Check us
Real
out on
Thing
Twitter
RPG.
right now.
Yes.
But we also have a Discord. Well, Twitter.
Okay.
Go to Twitter.
Go to
Yeah.
Twitter. It's easy.
You'll find a Discord from there.
Yeah.
That's the awkward
I
silence
think that's
after all
it.
the promotions.
I think that's it. Yeah.
We did good.
Great. So, on our last episode of The Established Facts. Oh.
Oh wow!
Oh.
I don't know who that is.
Oh.
It's time for the advertisements.
There we are.
Oh, okay. Oh,
There we go.
There's the music.
On our last episode of The Established Facts, we established, Dear dragon that lives in the water, thank you for saving my friends, and thank you for keeping Sir Caspian safe and sound. Bye now. Ah, yes. And on this episode, episode 220, I almost lost my English language.
You
there
wanted
for a
to say
second.
222. I saw.
I did. On episode 220, our In the End episode of The Established Facts, we have established, welcome to the Wall of Indecision. Population 3 and counting. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on episode 220 of The Established Facts, and we will check you later.
Bye.
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 Please visit us at www.theestablishedfacts.com and our Facebook page, facebook.com/theestablishedfacts. If you would like to support us by buying some merchandise, visit cafepress.com/castingrobot.
Bonus